You want a picture of what Graham was? There's his shoes. His skateboard shoes. But we once had 20 pairs of shoes. Had every one of his skateboards that he busted the hell out of everything. About a year before he died, we cleaned it up and burned all his old busted up skateboards. Oh man, I thought, dang, boy, I wish I had that now. I still got one of his first ones in the garage.
Graham died, it was Wednesday. They called and told me Graham was in the hospital. He was very serious. He had a head injury. I think they told me that.
Yeah.
I asked them if there had been an accident, and they said, no ma'am, no accident. I said, well, what happened? And they said, well, can you come to the hospital? I said, well, of course. It's the worst day ever.
Yeah.
They just took him every hour, 2 hours, I don't know. And the whole time his brain activity was just dropping. But they have to keep checking until it stops.
I noticed all these funny looking scratches all over him. You know, I said, what the heck is that? What is, look like little chicken feet. I found out later, those were the wires from the tasers.
It's just his ashes that are here. Just a box of ashes.
Yeah. If that had just said, we did this and look into this and fire these guys, you know, or something like that. Something. When somebody does something wrong, root them out, get rid of them, punish them.
They never claimed they feared for their life. You know, so he was no threat to anybody. They should have been there to help him, and ended up killing him.
For me, this slab was kind of special. You know, this is where Graham skateboarded on. Lots of whack, 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 whack right out there. So it's kind of neat to know that it's still here.
Motherf ker. I'm gonna kill you. Cops claim standard procedure used as teen is tasered to death. Cops caught on video tasering a teen in his genitals until he died and saying they were going to kill him, now claim this is standard procedure. By Matt Agarist, September 14, 2017. Mesquite, Texas. As the Free Thought Project reported earlier this year, police were caught on video tasering a young man's testicles and his body until he died. Then, in June, we learned that although the Dallas County District Attorney Faith Johnson found that the officers involved had committed a crime during their torture, they cannot be charged. Now, to add insult to unaccountable injury and death, according to court documents released this week, the cops are defending their tactics, calling their torturous acts that fateful night, standard procedure. Last week, Mesquite police officers Jack Fial, Richard Houston, Alan Gafford, Zachary Scott, William Heidelberg, and Bill Hedgepeth, the ones responsible for the death of Graham Dyer, asked the judge to dismiss the lawsuit brought against them by his Dyer's parents. "If I could go back in time and have this case, it would be indicted," said Michael Snipes, the first assistant district attorney. "We would have pursued criminally negligent homicide charges. These charges cannot be brought now, however, because in spite of the family only recently finding out about their son's horrifying death, cops kept the footage of it secret long enough for the statute of limitations to expire. As My Statesman reported in June, such charges cannot be brought more than 3 years after the incident, which came to the district attorney's attention as the result of an American Statesman investigation earlier in the year. And while there is no such limitation on the higher charge of manslaughter, Snipes said the officer's behavior that contributed to Graham's death didn't reach the level of a knowing disregard for his life. On August 14, 2013, Kathy and Robert Dyer got a phone call one night that is every parent's nightmare. Their son, Graham, was in the hospital. The 18-year-old boy had been severely injured during a struggle with police and was fighting for his life, a fight he would lose. When Kathy and Robert got to the hospital that night, police refused to let them see their son. They said he was in serious trouble, that he had felony charges for assaulting an officer, Kathy recalled. Graham had taken LSD that night and his friends called police after he had a bad reaction to it. Police claimed Graham injured himself as they drove him to jail. While the video does show Graham flailing back and forth, police failed to mention to the parents that they tortured him, repeatedly, with a taser, including deploying it on his genitalia. Read more. 9-year-old girl says a cop assaulted her 2-year-old brother for having a leaky diaper. Although this tragic incident happened in 2013, Kathy and Robert are only now finding out what happened to their son. For more than 2 years, the Mesquite Police Department would keep the video of Graham before he went to the hospital a secret. Now, after watching the video, we know why. Advertisement. Thanks to the work of Eric Dexheimer at Austin's My Statesman, the Dyer's story is now being told. And although the Mesquite Police Department won't face charges for their horrifying actions, they are getting some much-deserved negative attention. As My Statesman reported in April, it seemed improbable the 5 officers who'd brought him in couldn't safely subdue Graham. The youngest of the Dyer's 3 children was small and slight, 5'4", 110 pounds. He was a skateboarder, not a linebacker. As the morning passed, a series of scans showed Graham's brain activity slowing to a stop. "The worst day ever," Kathy said. Their son's autopsy said he died of self-inflicted head injuries, an accident, the medical examiner concluded. Even in the dark days following their son's death, the Dyers tended to believe the police. Why wouldn't they? Kathy, a civil engineer, and Robert, a teacher, were solid citizens. Even though they were originally inclined to believe police, Dyer's parents continued to ask more and more questions, like what were all those chicken feet scratches all over Graham's body? Or, why did the emergency room doctor's notes say Graham appeared to be a victim of assault? However, when Kathy and Robert went down to the Mesquite Police Department, they were not given answers to any of their questions because police weren't required to answer any of them. According to the ridiculous state law, police departments aren't required to hand over records for any incidents that don't result in a conviction. Since police killed Graham before he was able to stand trial for his alleged crimes, they were shielded from handing over the evidence. Read more. Cop convicted for kicking handcuffed man in the face for calling him a stormtrooper on video. For years, the Dyers would fight to get this information from police. Eventually, because of their persistence, the Dyers finally obtained the video footage from their son's last hours alive. When they viewed it for the first time, they realized everything police said that happened that night was a lie. Those chicken feet scratches, they would learn, were from taser prongs. The family hired Susan Hutchison to build a civil rights case against the department. During her investigation, horrifying details emerged. As My Statesman reports, Hutchison said the additional information contained more troubling details about Graham's interaction with the police. Taser records indicated 4 officers shocked him multiple times, she said. As Graham is being stunned with a taser in the back seat of the cruiser, one can be heard saying, "Mother expletive, I'm going to kill you." And kill him they did. At one point in the horrifying video, an officer is seen sadistically deploying the taser directly on Graham's penis. It's as if these officers enjoyed causing harm to this clearly distressed boy. When asked about the use of the tasers, the department wrote it off as standard procedure. A taser was deployed in an effort to control decedent, prevent escape and prevent him from injuring himself, the city stated in court documents, adding the officer had been aiming for Graham's leg and it was dark. In newly released court filings this week, the officer seen shocking Graham in the groin explains that what appears to be occurring in the video isn't what really happened, according to the Statesman. And the officer who issued the death threat dismisses it as a control tactic. However, in the video, we can clearly see the cop hold the taser to Graham's genitals. This is, by no means, standard procedure to prevent suspects from hurting themselves. Police are now attempting to deny reality and claim that despite video evidence showing them taser the young man in the genitals, they never tasered the young man in the genitals. In an affidavit describing his recollection of what occurred that night, Gafford, a 17-year police veteran, stated that no matter what appears to be happening in the video, he didn't shock Graham in the crotch, according to a report out of the Statesman. Read more. Disturbing video shows cops brutalize innocent man for walking into a store during an arrest. I attempted to apply my taser in a drive-stun mode to stop his violent resistance and ended up tossing him in the upper thigh, Gafford wrote. Although the night vision video camera appears to depict this was in the groin area, it was the upper inner thigh. Scott, a police officer for 7 years, added that when he said, "I'm going to kill you," it was only an attempt to control the teenager. I used harsh language during that stop out of frustration and also as a control tactic, as I have learned that sometimes harsh language will get a person's attention and achieve some cooperation, he wrote. Unfortunately, it did not work with Mr. Dyer. Even with this lawsuit, the Dyers keep hitting roadblocks in holding these cops accountable, like the statute of limitations protecting the criminal cops who killed their son. As Hutchison said, police departments in effect have complete immunity and no accountability, at least in Texas. The Dyers aren't even going after money. As My Statesman reports, Robert said his goal for the lawsuit is modest: "I just want them to say they fucked up." "I'm not saying doing LSD wasn't stupid," Kathy said. "And things happen. But this should have never happened. In spite of this selfless family getting railroaded by the corrupt system, they have taken action to make sure this doesn't happen to other families." As the Statesman reports, Kathy and Robert testified in front of legislators in support of a bill that could help other families in their position. Sponsored by Representative Joe Moody, D. El Paso, House Bill 3234 would have compelled law enforcement agencies to release their investigative records if, like Graham, the suspect had died, or, if not, gave his consent to their release. The couple's emotional testimony appeared to move several of the lawmakers on the State House Committee on Government Transparency and Operation. However, thanks to the police state worship in Texas, the bill only made it out of committee and then died. The family has now pledged that they will fight to the end for justice.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I'd like to thank you for all your years of support through the years. As a result, this channel has grown and allowed me an equity partnership in carmarshal.com. Please take the time to check them out. They help you buy and sell your next car, even have a negotiating tool to save you from the hassle of haggling with multiple dealers. The link is in the description below. Please click and help support and give if you can too through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks again.